candidates vying for 3 contested seats on the Fairway City Council. We'll give the candidates up here a chance to introduce themselves shortly, but first, my name is Kyle Palmer. I'm the editor of the Johnson County Post, and I'm honored to be moderator for this forum. This is the first night of 12 nights of forums we're going to do all across Johnson County between now and Election Day. And so thanks so much for these candidates and you who turned out tonight to kick us off. We do consider events like this our bread and butter. We've hosted such forums nearly every year since the Post's founding 15 years ago. They allow readers and residents of Johnson County direct access to the people who would hold elected office and govern your communities. The Post prides itself on giving you fact-based, informative coverage of your local communities that you can't find anywhere else, and local elections are a perfect time to demonstrate that service. So if you subscribe to the Post, I want to thank you. It's your support that allows us to put on events like this. We would not be able to do our annual election coverage without your support. Most of our revenue indeed comes from our nearly 8,000 paying subscribers. If you do not currently subscribe, however, but want to check us out and consider joining our growing community, you can go to johnsoncountypost.com and see what we're all about. A big thanks to the Shawnee Mission School District for allowing us to use this space inside the library at Westwood View Elementary for this evening tonight. We have a Westwood City Council forum right after this. We're also live streaming this event tonight on the Post Facebook page. We'll also put it up on our YouTube channel as well. It'll stay there through Election Day, so you'll be able to see either on our Facebook page or at our YouTube channel if you're not able to be here tonight or not able to catch all of this live this evening. I also want to thank the candidates who are here tonight. Running for office is time-consuming and labor-intensive. You're seeking a position that will directly impact our readers, and we appreciate you giving some of your time tonight and help them understand your positions on the key issues. Let's briefly lay out the format for this event, giving the candidates a chance to introduce themselves. This forum features candidates vying for 3 contested Fairway City Council seats. I'll also note there is incumbent Ward 1 Council member Kellyanne Buzek and Mayor Melanie Hepperly are also both on the ballot, but they are uncontested. We traditionally don't leave space at these forums for uncontested races, just to leave time for people who want people who are in contested races who might need to differentiate themselves from their candidates. So for tonight's forum, each candidate will be given 1 minute to make a brief opening statement. We'll go through all 5 candidates up here, allow them a chance to introduce themselves. Following that, we'll then ask a series of questions based in part on reader input. Each candidate will be given a chance to respond to those questions. We want to get through as many questions as possible, so we'll limit response time typically between 60 and 90 seconds. I'll make it clear. You'll all get the same amount of time. Sometimes it might be 60, sometimes it might be 90. I'll make it clear when we start the question. And at the same time, we might want to take some questions from the audience as well. So anyone in the audience who wants to write down a question for these candidates in Fairway, you can write it on those index cards. Leah can collect those and bring those up to me. So some of my prepared questions as well as questions from the audience. If you do mention your opponent by name or someone else on the stage, it's clear who you're talking about. Might give that opponent or other candidate 30 seconds to respond, just as a courtesy rebuttal. We do want to get through as many issues as possible, so we're not going to get through any extended back and forths, but just want to let you know that you will get a chance to respond if your opponent does mention your or one of your policies. So with that, let's get going. We drew Scrabble tiles to begin, and so Jim Hafner in the Ward 3 race, Ward 3, correct? Jim will start us off, and we'll hear from Bill after that. So Ward 3, Ward 4, and then back to Ward 2. So Jim, start us off with 60 seconds of an opening statement.
Hi, thank you, Kyle. My name is Jim Hafner. I've been a resident of Fairway, Ward 3, which is Reinhardt Estates, basically, for about 29 years. We moved from Boca neighborhood in Kansas City. My family got a wife and 2 children. Our son is in Oregon, and our daughter's living with us right now. I've just tried to run 2 years ago, and I lost. I'm open about that, and now I'm back, like Arnie would say. And I just want to try to contribute back to the community. I have attended a few town hall council meetings and all that, and so I'm just anxious to try to give back, and that's been part of my role. I'm a retired clinical social worker of 30 years and had some leadership experience during those times too, in a variety of experience.
Well, thank you, Jim. Let's stay in Ward 3 and now give Bill Stafford the chance to introduce himself. Bill.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Bill Stafford, and for the past 16 years, I've been living in Fairway and 29 in Johnson County. I'm a professional engineer, and I built my career and my life around honesty, integrity, and solving problems that strengthen the community. Since retiring in 2020, I've dedicated my time to serving others. I'm on the board of Fairway Zoning Appeals, Outreach Ministries at the United Methodist Church of the Resurrection, volunteering at the Shawnee Indian Mission, and most importantly, a husband, father, and grandfather to 2 local children and 7 grandchildren. My understanding of the Fairways government and my relationship with our mayor and city council, my background in civil engineering, will allow me to be a collaborative and effective voice for our city. I'm committed to protecting public safety, ensuring Fairway's financial health, and investing wisely in our infrastructure, public spaces, natural beauty. I believe in guiding our future by listening to the residents and working together. Fairway is a unique, close-knit community. Feels like family. I look forward to continuing to serve and keeping Fairway strong, safe, and beautiful.
Thank you, Bill. So that's Jim Hafner, Bill Stafford in Ward 3. Let's move now to Ward 4, and we'll start with Kyle Corcoran.
Thank you, Kyle, for giving me the opportunity to speak. So, my name is Kyle Corcoran. So I've lived here about 5 years. My wife has lived here most of her life. So, and we have a son named Clark who's about 2. So he's lived here all his life. But so since July of this year, I've been going around talking to people in Ward 4 about what issues they are concerned. So, like, the motivation for doing this is I want to make sure those issues are being addressed at the city council level. So that is kind of like when I do it. Plus, in my education background, I have 3 degrees right now. So a bachelor's in math from K-State. I got a master's in stats from UMKC, and I should have the PhD in December. That one's going to be in math and informatics, which is a fancy way to say math for like clinical studies. But yeah, I really want to see some of what these people are saying more implemented in what the city council does. And that's kind of a little bit about me. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak.
Well, let's stay in Ward 4. Now turn the mic over to Tanya Keys for your introduction.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tanya Keys. I live at 5909 Delmar, not too far from Fairway Creamery, if you know where that is. Thank you for being here. Local elections and local government matters. It's really important that we're all engaged. I was inspired about 12 years ago. I had lived in Fairway for about 12 years ago, wanted to be part of the Parks and Recreation Committee, and that inspired me to want to be more of a voice. I have a background in public service. I'm a social worker, and I'm dedicated to public service and being a responsive voice.
Thank you to the candidates in Ward 4. Let's go back to the other end of the table and meet Dan Bailey in Ward 2. Dan, if you want to give an introduction to yourself.
Hi, thanks everybody for being here. I really appreciate that, and thank you, the Post, for putting this on. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Dan Bailey. I live with my wife and 2 daughters on Mission Road. We've been here about 15 years now. My wife, Wendy, she heads the Planning Commission, and she'll have the 2 daughters, I think, in the audience here when soccer practice gets over. This would be my 3rd term on the council, so I've served 8 years so far. I'm an engineer by education and I currently still work as an engineer as well. So, I mean, I'll be the first to admit some of my answers tonight are probably going to be pretty cut and dry in terms of the issues, but I think more than anything, we're really on this precipice of solving a lot of infrastructure problems within our city, and I just want to continue helping with that. Thank you.
So thanks to all the candidates for introducing yourselves. In Ward 2, Dan Bailey is on the ballot with Emily Snyder. Emily said early on in the process of trying to organize that September 10th was not going to work for her, so didn't explain it beyond that, but she is not here tonight. So let's go to some issue questions. So we'll jump back into Ward 3. Jim went first in opening statement, so Bill will go first. And after Bill responds, since you're in the same ward race, I'll kick it over to Jim for the same question before we move to Ward 4. So Bill, the question to you, and this is going to be for all candidates. I'll give you 90 seconds to respond to this one, maybe give you a chance to expound on some of your priorities. And what, in your opinion, is the biggest issue or challenge facing Fairway over the next 4 years? And how do you plan to tackle it on the City Council? Start with Bill Stafford in Ward 3.
Well, there are multiple issues that any city faces, but financially being responsible and applying the money to the areas in need, keeping up maintenance, and making sure that the customers, the residents' wishes are fulfilled. So I guess the number one issue it always seems to be around budget. Other issues, of course, is keeping the trees safe and keeping them trimmed up. as I mentioned earlier, it's like a family. You know, we're very tightly knit. You know, we can walk safely. So safety, you know, with the police force is of course very critical. I support the police and look forward to just, you know, picking up the different things. I've been walking around talking to neighbors. I've got a list already of 11 different items that the neighbors have talked about that they'd like me to bring to the council. I won't go through them all, but I do have that list, and it, you know, it ranges from, you know, from trees to cleaning streets to things like that. So addressing the issues that the residents have and keeping our budget intact or lower if we can do it would be my goals.
Staying in Ward 3, we'll move the microphone back over to Jim Hafner so we can get both of you back to back. So the biggest challenge or issue you see facing Fairway over the next 4 years and how you would address it if on the council.
I think Fairway's a very small knit community. It's a 1 square mile community. I think budgetary-wise and focus on finances are fairly tight. I would much rather see us expanded to the quality and culture and character of the community. When we moved in years ago, neighbors looked after each other, and we were informed about watch our children we were on Glenfield Drive, and so people would be shooting through Glenfield Drive in the morning or in the evening. Keep your kids off of that. I think that sort of element is not quite maybe the way it should be. I would like to see more of that, and I think we have a pressing issue now with bikes and kids on bikes of all ages and stuff that over a year and a half ago I mentioned to one of the members of the administration to keep an eye on and stuff, and so now it's become an acute issue, and we're not involving the community. It's a crisis, and I would have liked to have seen the community involvement to solve the problems themselves and take some responsibility as residents to what can we do to look after each other. A lot of families there have the little children on, you know, watch the children sort of thing, be safe. I think we've seen a lot of issues with the kids on bikes that could endanger their lives, and I think that's a major concern right now for me, and I'd like to see that. The funding issues, and I think the appraisals, the transition of the housing when we moved was basically ranches. Now they're 2 stories and very multi-million-dollar homes, and so I'm not sure how you keep balancing that, but I can easily learn that. And I look at things from a systemic standpoint, so that's where I'm kind of at right now.
We're going to move to Ward 4, and since Kyle Corcoran went first in opening statements, we'll give the floor to Tanya Keys first for this question. Same thing, biggest issue or challenge you see in Fairway over the next 4 years, and how you would plan to tackle it if on the city council again in your case.
I think a number of complicating factors so that we can manage our capital improvement plan with current needs and current operations. We need to balance all of the needs that we wish to develop in the next 4 years. For example, we have a number of capital improvement projects while also trying to consider alternatives or options for a police department facility, which needs some remedy or some solution. So I think that is before us. Right now, how I would get that done is we listen to department heads, we listen to our neighbors, and we engage in our finance meetings to make sure that if we can engage a project and fully cover its costs, then we prioritize it. That's how I would get it done, is just continue the path that we've been on, being fiscally responsible.
Staying in Ward 4, microphone back to Kyle Corcoran, the biggest issue or challenge you see facing Fairway over the next 4 years and how you would tackle it if on the city council.
Give an opportunity to answer that. So the biggest issue with this is based on what people have been telling me when I canvass is the tear downs and the rebuilds that are going on in Ward 4. So that what I mean is it's especially the prices that these houses generate, right? So the end result, at least in my opinion, is that if you keep building these houses, people are going to get priced out, right? Renters, homeowners, and to me, that I don't want to live in a city where people, based on how much money they have, are told to leave. To me, that's wrong. So to change it, I think the biggest, I had a couple ideas about this, but to address it, I think we need to do some more from a city council to like address this, so that could look like maybe some type of assistance program in terms of, say, like you need help with a bill, you need a utility bill, you can't pay it, you have a medical bill, something like that. And then for the renters, because like I said, you build them big mansions where the size is kind of a 6-story or 6-bedroom house, they're already struggling to get ahead, right? How are they going to afford to buy a house like that if they're paying all their money in rent? So like some type of program for the city council to help transition them into home ownership, right? Because we want to keep people in Fairway, And I want to be in Fairway where people can feel like they matter more than how much money they have. So that's kind of my opinion. Again, this is all based on people what I've been talking to at their doors, and kind of reflects their opinions too. So thank you.
And back to the Ward 2, Dan Bailey, the biggest issue or challenge you see facing Fairway over the next 4 years, and how you would tackle it if you are, in your case, re-elected to the City Council.
So it was said, I mean, we're a 1 square mile community, and I don't want to diminish anyone's, problem that they have, but relatively speaking, we don't have a lot of problems in Fairway. And when we do, the administration, the city workers, they're very nimble, and for the most part, they can get those problems addressed and solved about as quickly as you can possibly, solve something in government. Government clearly, I have learned this in 8 years, clearly moves at a slower pace than the private sector. To answer your question, though, the biggest issue is the police department. The police department, the walls are literally falling in. So we, need to find the land to put a new police department on, and the funding to do that. I mean, that will be one of the largest, if not the largest project that's ever been done in the city of Fairway. So over the next 4 years, I would say that would be our biggest problem we need to address.
We will go back to Ward 4 now, kind of jumping around because the last question started with Ward 3, so we'll come back to Ward 4. The order falls to Kyle Corcoran to answer this one first within Ward 4. This does come from readers not only in Fairway, but also in other cities, budget and spending and property taxes. Those are kind of the issues we hear about the most, not only in Fairway, but across Johnson County. So there'll be, these questions will kind of be paired up, but we'll start with the budget and spending first. So just this week, the Fairway City Council approved the 2026 city budget. It lays out roughly $7 million in expenditures, which is a roughly 5% increase year over year. Single biggest buckets of expenses are police and public works. Those combined take up about 50% of city spending, much of that going to staff salaries. Do you agree with the city's level of spending? If so, why do you think the city's current budget and increased spending level is necessary? If not, where would you propose cutting? So we'll start here. 60 seconds to respond to this question. Kyle Corcoran in Ward 4 will begin.
So I'm going to say I agree with that. The city should say the budget should be fine. The public works is great. The pool is great. My issue is the question, is that money for the police worth it? Not saying to fund the police. I'm like, there's only about, from what I understand, 10 officers. Could that money be reused to help with like the transition program for homeowners or renters to an assistance program? I just think we need to ask, is that really an efficient way to use that money? So I would try to reorganize the budget to make it more efficient to meet everybody's need a little bit better.
I didn't want to interrupt if you were not finished.
That's just, so yeah, it's kind of that. That's all. I wanted to thank you again for that, and that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, staying in Ward 4, Tanya Keys, the question, do you agree with the city's current level of spending? If so, why do you think the city's budget and increased spending is necessary? If not, where would you propose cutting?
Thank you. I do agree with our level of spending. Have appreciated the budget process every year that starts in April and has a lot of input. I agree with it because we have a great value of services in Fairway. The monthly tax liability and how we as residents are paying in is about $135 a month for a set of 10 to 12 key critical services for residents of Fairway. That's important and it's essential. I can't think of anything that I would want to change. We're always hearing about how folks may wish for more or have different innovations or ideas on how to save and where to save or where to realize savings, and always appreciate that. But I agree with our budget.
Going down to Ward 2, Dan Bailey, the question to you, the city's current budget, again, projected to be about $7 million next year, up about 5%. Do you agree with that level of spending? Why or why not? If not, where would you propose cutting?
So I think when you initially asked that, you had some additional question in there. And the way the homes are appraised in Johnson County, I do think that is slightly broken and needs to be fixed. But that's not something we solve within the 1 square mile of the city of Fairway. So to answer your question specifically, as an engineer, I dread when it's audit time at the business and the auditors come in. Melanie Hepperly has done a great job. I wish she was here tonight to hear this. She's done a great job taking what was an unbalanced budget without reserves, getting us to where we are now. So we are spending more than we were last year, just like everybody else, but I truly think we're spending that on services that the residents want and infrastructure needs and upgrades that some of these have not even been addressed since Fairway was founded in the 40s or 50s.
Ward 3, Bill Stafford went first last time, so the order will go to Jim now. Jim, you answer this question. What do you think about the city's current level of spending? Is it in line with what the city needs? If you think it needs to be cut, where would you propose cutting? We'll start with Jim. If you could just move the microphone closer to you, yes, thank you.
I don't know all the specifics, but the way I look at things is that the housing, in my always comments at City Hall, is that the housing values are increasing. The county is raising taxation on that. I've heard from Roland Park, or seen in Roland Park complaining about next year they're raising their taxes 16%. I know some residents that are paying anywhere from $24,000 to $23,000 a year to the county. I think you look at priorities and then you look at what's really needed per se to try to balance that out. And maybe if we know what's going on a federal level too, there's going to be more cuts, and so maybe we need to kind of close things down a little bit and be a little more tight-lipped about it. Sorry.
Staying in Ward 3, Bill Stafford, do you agree with the city's current level of spending? What's been approved for 2026? If so, why do you think that level of spending is necessary? If not, where would you propose cutting?
Well, I guess to answer that question would be answering out of ignorance. I'm not on the city council. I have not spent the 6 months that city council did budgeting it. No one likes to have their property taxes raised, but we get 17%, the city does, of the property tax money that you spend. So the question that I've asked people that walked around, because people have asked about it, I said, what service would you like to cut? I get no answer. The city does a good job. And for me to sit here and tell you I'd cut here, here, and there would be doing it with no facts behind it. But my job would be to go in and see if there is someplace that we can cut and to understand why we're spending it and where we're spending it. I've run businesses, I've been the CEO, I've been vice presidents, I've run companies, I've about 50 offices over the U.S. I know how to run a business, and I can help the city.
All right, the next issue kind of tied in with budget and spending are property taxes and valuations, which again, as Dan mentioned, the city does not control, but the order will fall to Dan in Ward 2. To start this, Dan Bailey, the city's 2026 budget holds the city's mill levy or property tax rate flat at 19.9 mils. Still, over the past decade, the average Fairway homeowner has seen their property tax bill nearly double from just under $700 per year to more than $1,400 per year. Again, that's the portion going just to the city. That's due nearly entirely to increased valuations, as the city has pretty much kept its mill levy flat over that time. And I think someone mentioned it, that the city's portion of a homeowner's tax bill in Fairway takes up a little less than 20%. Is there anything more the city can do to alleviate rising property taxes? We'll throw that question to Dan Bailey in Ward 2 first.
Well, I mean, sometimes
60 seconds.
Okay. Sometimes I do feel like us as residents in Northeast Johnson County are to an extent overlooked by the county as a whole. I mean, we absolutely have a good relationship as a city, with our county commissioner. I think most importantly would be continuing to foster that relationship, whoever that county commissioner is, and really get together with the other cities in Northeast Johnson County and raise this up to more of a county level issue. So I'll stop talking on this one right now, but I think my short answer is, as a city, I don't think there's much we can do to change that at the moment.
Moving to Ward 3, the order will go to Jim first to answer this question. Is there anything the city can do to alleviate rising property taxes, with the knowledge of some of the things that Dan just mentioned about some of the limitations that a city faces, but is there anything the city can do to try to help out residents who are facing rising property tax bills? 60 seconds.
Per se, but mine the county was trying to raise mine $80,000. I fought that, appealed that, took it to the state, and basically I'm not quite sure where that stands now. They're going to try to lower it down a little bit. But my concern is that when you got that sort of process going on, you're increasing the gentrification of the community. I would much rather have a more open community for a variety of people that can afford housing. You know, this is, and the county seems to be going wild. The neighbor next to me bought his old, rebuilt his family home and was once with probably a $400,000 house, is now over $2 million. So I think we need to keep an eye on that, and I don't think the city needs to get involved in that sort of process of escalating that sort of, so anything they can do to keep that down would be positive. What I don't know how, but I could easily find out, I'm sure, if I got on.
Staying in Ward 3, moving the microphone over to Bill, is there anything that more the city can do to alleviate rising property taxes?
Well, first of all, Johnson County sets the property tax value, not Fairway. So the answer to your question is no. But that doesn't mean we can't look at trying to keep our mill levy at least steady, which it has been for, I think, 8 or 9 years now. The mill levy has not risen. Could we reduce it? Possible. But I know most of the city council members, I know that they diligently look at every line item. I mean, for months. Are we open to suggestions? Absolutely. And I would love to hear from the residents in my ward of what service they'd like to cut back or where they think we could save some money. But to answer your question, Fairway doesn't set the house prices.
And we do have a question related to maybe one policy that would work from the audience, but we'll get to that after we go through Ward 4 first. And I think, Tanya, the order falls to you first. Is there anything the city can do more to alleviate rising property taxes for Fairway homeowners? 60 seconds.
In a technical sense, there's nothing that the city might do that I'm aware of to influence county or the appraisal valuation process. Certainly, we can do more to make sure that we are engaged in any county dialogue or regional dialogue around the Kansas City metro, around housing costs, property taxes, so we can definitely keep that engaged. It's already been mentioned that we can keep the mill levy steady, so I can't think of anything else.
Wrapping up this question, Kyle Corcoran in Ward 4, anything the city can do to alleviate rising property taxes?
I'll say no. I agree with everybody here that they should not. They can't do anything because it's not in the power of the Fairway. But the question is that, are we using the funds that the city has already efficiently? So I mean, like, are we making sure everybody's taken care of? Are we making sure, especially seniors, people want fixed income? I talked to a few people on fixed income who were worried that, the costs sort of with the city and the property tax from the landlord because they're renting, we're going to get out of control. So I just want to make sure to think of the question, can we use our money more efficiently rather than just can we raise it, because we can't. The city doesn't have the authority to do that.
I do want to just kind of come back down the line. There was a follow-up question from the audience. This audience member points out Overland Park has a rebate program for low-income homeowners. I don't think Overland Park's the only city that does this. Would you support such a program in Fairway to at least give some of the lower-income residents in Fairway a chance, a little bit of a break on their local or their city property tax payment? This will just be kind of a quick response. We'll go back down the same ward, starting with Dan Bailey in Ward 2, 30 seconds.
Program that was actually tenable and could work. We have evaluated this before, and I don't have the details in front of me, but there is a small or 0% of the residents that would actually qualify for such a program within the city of Fairway.
Going to Ward 3, Jim Hafner, supporting a rebate program for low-income homeowners in Fairway if needed.
Miriam also does help some of the residents with repairs, which would be kind of nice, but then they have a larger, economic base to have that income come from. But maybe just $100 or a couple $100 would help with repairs for some people, especially if they're on fixed incomes, so they could do some repairs and not have to worry about moving someplace else.
So do you support the idea of exploring a rebate program for low-income homeowners?
Well, to see if it could be within the budget. The other night we heard about that they need to buy new chairs for the council. Really? I mean, with what's going on now, maybe that could be postponed. I don't know if that's a priority or not.
Staying in Ward 3, Bill Stafford, the idea of a rebate program for property taxes that go to Fairway for some of the lower income homeowners. Your thoughts?
I would definitely support something like that, and I would throw out an idea for funding it. The church that I belong to, United Methodist Church of the Resurrection, Once a month, we throw money in the hat to do exactly that. People that come in and need a utility bill or something. There's a lot of people in this town or in Fairway that are very generous. And I think if we open it up where we could, receive donations and then find a way to equitably pass it on, that I would absolutely support that.
Going to Ward 4, Kyle Corcoran, the idea, again, posed from an audience member, supporting a rebate program for low-income homeowners in Fairway. Where would you fall on that?
Absolutely. I think that's the right direction for Fairway right now. I mean, it would be important to figure out how it's get funded, but you could take that money and use it to, like people have mentioned, a housing assistance program or a transition program. But I think it absolutely would.
And then rounding this out, Tanya Keys in Ward 4 as well, this idea of the rebate program.
Yes, I would support exploring a rebate program, and has been mentioned on the panel. The council in our finance and administration meeting has explored. We're also looking at other cities in Johnson County to model or see if there's anything that could be replicated or scaled to be meaningful for Fairway.
Let's go to another issue, and the order goes back to Ward 3. We'll start with Jim Hafner in that ward. One of the issues we face, this is from a reader. They emailed this in, but then we also got a question kind of along the same lines. It's talking about trees and green space. So this is from a reader. One of the issues we face, this is the reader talking, in our area at Northeast Johnson County is the aging trees and the ability to keep up with the maintenance and the fallout when limbs take out power. It always seems to be a Band-Aid response and not one of a proactive approach. This is the reader speaking. Tree maintenance is expensive and most homeowners can't afford to trim or remove trees, or some homeowners don't want to do it. What can Northeast Johnson County cities like Fairway do to enforce tree trimming or removal ordinances and offer cost breaks as needed so neighborhoods can be better prepared for bad weather and storms that can rip down tree limbs and knock out power? So 60 seconds, we'll start with Jim Hafner in Ward 3 first.
My personal experience with that was we had a tree go down in our backyard. I used to use Casey Arborists in Kansas City when I had a rental property there. They were the most expensive in addressing that. So the city uses them, so I'm not quite sure how much they charge the city for their different tree trimmings or cuttings down. I've not got that information from the city manager yet, but looking at that to try to see what operators or vendors could be a little more economical. And that I got from other neighbors giving me, oh, yeah, we use this one, or we use this company, we use that one. They were pretty reasonable. So,
Microphone, move it over to Bill Stafford in Ward 3. This question about tree trimming removal. What can Fairway do to enforce current codes, as well as maybe offer homeowners breaks on the cost of having to trim trees or do damage repair after storms? Anything the city can do to help out homeowners?
There's like 3 questions there.
Oh, sorry. Do you want to repeat
one at the very end? So ask, what question would you like me to answer?
Yeah, so what can Fairway do to enforce tree trimming removal codes and offer cost breaks as needed to homeowners who might need to repair damage? So maybe a 2-part question there.
Well, first of all, I don't know anything about the code, so I can't tell you what they can do. But I can tell you there are 3 types of trees in Fairway. They're the ones along power lines that are trimmed by the utility company. There's trees that are personal trees that are the responsibility of the homeowners. And then there's the city trees that the city trims. Now, everybody does their part and the trees get taken care of. But as far as a code, I don't know what the code is. If somebody knows what the code is about having to cut your trees, I don't know what that is. But I trim my trees. I actually scheduled yesterday to have some of my trees trimmed.
Yeah, I mean, I think this reader was suggesting, like, is there anything more the city can do to enforce the current codes? And maybe you don't know what those are, and I don't know those are either, but would you want to see more enforcement of current codes in terms of tree trimming and removal?
You can't answer that question if I don't know what the code is. Do you have the code?
No, I do not have the code, no.
So I don't know how you answer the question.
So, yeah, well, we'll have time. I mean, there's a couple of city council members here. Maybe they can respond to it, but we'll go to Ward 4, and the order goes to Kyle Corcoran first. Do you want to see Fairway do anything more to enforce current tree trimming removal codes, give homeowners cost breaks if they need to repair damage or trim their own trees? Because as this reader pointed out, a lot of homeowners don't want to do it because of the cost.
Fair question, because from experience, I've had a tree fall and almost wrecked my wife's car, actually, but it didn't. But so as far as like what the city do, I think it can be more incentives. So when I was talking to people on this, they were complaining that they didn't think the city was consistent with it. They would go, sometimes Ward 2 gets it more than Ward 4, and they don't understand. So I think more incentives here for residents to like, maybe give them like a tax break allowed by city ordinance or some type of recognition to kind of give them some type of, like, you're doing a good thing and we appreciate it, but you don't have to. So yeah, more feedback and more just kind of, we want you to help, more involvement from the community. I think is the best way to do it.
Now, a question to Tanya Keys, remaining in Ward 4, can Fairway do anything more to enforce tree trimming, removal, and offer cost breaks as needed to residents?
The way that Fairway and the team, right-of-way specialists and others enforce, they can enforce either through responding to a phone call, a neighbor, or they also, our Public Works is great about driving around, and if they see dangerous trees, they're able to identify that and contact residents. I also feel fortunate that within our city, the level of service is such that if we have a storm, or if you're able to get your tree limbs to the curb, our Public Works will pick them up, and they also help us with the right-of-way trimming cycle and rotation that they do. I find our Public Works and our contracts for our tree trimmer to be wonderful.
And rounding out this question, going to Ward 2, and Dan Bailey, do you want to see Fairway do any more to enforce trimming and removal, offer cost breaks as needed to homeowners, maybe after a bad storm? What say you on this?
I don't talk in absolutes all that often, but you're not going to be able to find a city that does a better job of taking care of the right-of-way trees than Fairway. I run around the city quite a bit, and we get a report on trees that need to be taken down, and it just amazes me how proactive they are there. Second, private trees are private trees, and that should be taken care of by the residents. Third, the utility trees along the power lines, the biggest complaint we get isn't the utilities not trimming the trees enough. It's the utilities trimming the trees too much. We don't like the aesthetic. But what you don't see, unless you're really digging into it and looking, is how much pressure the city has put on Evergy over the last 10 years to upgrade electrical infrastructure within the city. New transformers, new enforced lines. I can speak for our circuit that we're on. We're probably seeing 20% of the outages that we did just 10 years ago because we got our line replaced. That doesn't happen instantly. There's still some streets that need that.
Just to be transparent, I have about 10 more minutes to go in this forum before we kind of take a break and get ready for Westwood at 7 o'clock, so we'll get through at least 2 or 3 more questions. The order falls to Ward 4 here, and we'll begin with Tanya Keys on this question. This also comes from a reader email, a little bit of a lengthy preamble, but I'll read it verbatim. Quote, I'm sure the Fairway Shops has a private owner or landlord, which may make it harder for elected officials to influence, but as an important anchor of the community, it could be better utilized, in this reader's opinion. At one point, we had 3 bank branches within a single block. One is yet another Chase Bank spot that was a Russell Stover's candy store previously. This reader points out, as I watch Corinth Square and Corinth Quarter and Prairie Village modernize and improve their centers, I have to wonder why we can't do better for the Fairway Shops. That's the reader's comment. So as a council member, do you have a vision for the Fairway Shops and more broadly retail and entertainment in Fairway more generally? But of course, this question focused on the Fairway Shops. Again, the reader acknowledging maybe there's little the city can do, but what is your vision for that key property in Fairway? Tanya Keys, 60 seconds.
Thank you. I think my vision is that we have full tenancy in those beautiful shops. We need a variety. We need those services or supports or retail or restaurant to help our well-being. We know we have Zen Donkey that's just opened up. As many are aware, we are working to get the former Houlihan's restaurant operating again as a restaurant. It is important that residents have an array of commercial that can really meet their needs, and we look forward to that being full soon.
Staying in Ward 4, Kyle Corcoran, your vision for the Fairway Shops, so I guess more broadly, retail and entertainment in Fairway more generally. 60 seconds.
Short my vision is I want these places to be the most profitable they can be, right? So in terms of they can generate all the tax revenue that the city council can use for the budget, provide more services. So my vision is kind of like, I want them to be the best they can be for everybody. So that could be shopping, it could be dining, and also it's Fairway's a lot of families. I want to take my son there. I want something that's family friendly and make sure everybody feels welcome. So those are really important to me. It's kind of my short vision, but that's all the time I have.
Going down to Ward 2, Dan Bailey, your vision for the Fairway Shops, anything the city could be doing more to get to full tenancy, as these 2 candidates have pointed out? What's your vision for the Fairway Shops?
To a large degree, you're handcuffed to some extent when you're talking about private developers and private owners. We have had a lot of meetings, and the mayor and the city administrator have even more about filling the former Houlihan's spot. I do think we're going to get there, but it's a lengthy process and it just doesn't happen overnight. We have not been approached about it, but it would be my sense, looking at the other, shopping districts in Northeast Johnson County, I would not be surprised if the developer, comes to the city within a few years to redevelop the shops as a whole.
Going to Ward 3, we'll start the order with Bill Stafford on this question. Your vision for the Fairway shops, what would you like to see happen there? Anything the city council could do about that?
Well, of course, filling the Houlihan spot would help. The lady mentioned there were 2 banks there. Well, that's because one of the retails failed, and they had to find another tenant, and the bank came in, so the Fairway has tried to spread it out. But the idea of redoing the shops would be something that I would personally work on. I've been in the development field as an engineer for almost 50 years. I know most of the developers in town. If I could do anything on the city council to try to attract the developer or work with the present owner to redo the shops, I would be on board.
And staying in Ward 3, Jim Hafner, I think you're the last person to answer this question. What's your vision for the Fairway shops? Anything the city council can do to push some of these visions forward that we've heard from other candidates?
Houlihan's has been an eyesore for years, and I just discovered that they're in tax arrears, so I guess from what I found out the other night at the council meeting is they're trying to get that addressed, or the owner's trying to get that addressed before they can move on for any sort of redevelopment. That's new to me. The only other vacancy they have is a small space next to Houlihan's. When Hen House opens up in Prairie Village, it's going to be a bigger hen house. I don't know how much competition that'll be for the local hen house. So I think the little community is pretty well set. I don't know what you could do to redevelop unless you tore the whole thing down and redid it. And then we might end up like Mission Mall. So that's all I got to say.
No one wants to end up like that. Okay. No one wants to end up like that. We'll go down to the order falls to Dan Bailey for this next question, so we'll come back down the line. This also comes from a reader. There have been efforts in recent years in the Kansas legislature to authorize conveyance or transfer of ownership of the Shawnee Indian Mission historic site in Fairway from the state to the Shawnee tribe. Fairway does not own the site, but does help maintain it, sets aside funds each year in its budget to help pay for those efforts. So Dan Bailey in Ward 2, start this question off. What is your stance on this issue? Should the city retain its role in the mission? Do you support ceding control over to the tribe? Why or why not? Give you 60 seconds.
Yes, the city should retain its role as it is right now in the mission. And part of that, I mean, what's happened over the last couple of years is, without getting real political, there's been one entity that's really been pushing for this and lobbying for it in Kansas. And it just amazes me the last 2 years how things have gone down there and how quickly things move, with some lobbying effort. What I think the positive this came out of all that is all of the other tribes are, a lot of the other tribes are now at the table, have a seat at the table in re-envisioning the mission's future. And I think long-term that's going to be the most positive thing, that it's not just one entity or 2 entities or 3 entities controlling the mission. It's for everybody.
Moving to Ward 3, Jim Hafner goes first on this round, so you move the microphone a little bit closer. What is your stance on the Shawnee Indian Mission? Should the city retain its current role in the mission? Do you support ceding control to the Shawnee tribe, as has been proposed in a couple of bills the last 2 years? 60 seconds.
They could keep ownership of it, or whatever you want to call it. I would like to see, though, that maybe they involve the KC Indian Center and have more people come in to talk about, like, the doctrine of discovery, so there could be a broader education of what went on way back then. I think people relish the fact that it's the Shawnee Indian Mission and how great things were there. I would like to see that education be a little bit broader and more in perspective, that's all. And maybe they could entertain or ask the different communities, indigenous nations, what would they like to do with it that they could have more activities there to really educate the population.
Moving the microphone over to Bill Stafford, also in Ward 3. What's your stance on the Shawnee Indian Mission? Should the city retain its current role with the mission? Do you support ceding control to the tribe?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, we should keep it the way it is, with as much information as I have. My wife and I both volunteer down there on a regular basis, and if you're involved in the mission down there and you follow their newsletters, you would find out that they are increasing the number of speakers that they have, and they are increasing the involvement in other tribes. But if you're not involved in the Shawnee Indian Mission, you don't know what's going on. My wife and I are actively involved in it, and if you want to support them, we have a festival, I believe, on October 9th. You will find my wife and I at the bar serving drinks to folks. Come and support the mission.
Rounding out this question, we'll go to Ward 4. Kyle Corcoran, will go first in this ward race. Your stance on the Shawnee Indian Mission, should the city retain its current role, do you support ceding control to the tribe?
It's been an honor, I think, for Fairway to do what it has in the past. But personally, I think it's about time we give it back to them, because we want to respect the history of how it was got and how we got it. So like, I think it's their time, and let them do it. Let them have their representatives. But, like I said, it's been an honor, but it's a time I think we give it back to the Shawnee Indian Nation and let it kind of like do what they want to do. It's about time.
Staying in Ward 4, Tanya Keys, your stance on the Shawnee Indian Mission, should the city retain its role in the mission, do you support ceding control to the tribe?
Yes, the city should retain our role in how we support operations of programs and programming that happens at that site. With regard to tribal activity, ultimately the decision on any ceding to tribes needs to be decided by all tribes who feel that they have an investment.
This last question will kind of serve as a closing statement as well. We've learned over past years when giving candidates a chance to do closing statements, they sometimes put in one final dig at their opponent and there's no chance to respond. So we're kind of like going away from closing statements to be totally transparent, but this question does offer you a chance to maybe make a sort of closing statement. It does come from an audience member, and the order will fall to Ward 3 first, and Bill Stafford will go first within that ward. So an audience member wants to know how much candidates prioritize meeting attendance, actually showing up at council meetings, and also cares about whether candidates have invested in the city by showing up at meetings, being present. In what ways have you already invested in the Fairway community, I guess is maybe a better way to put that. So your priority on actually showing up if elected, and then how have you already kind of shown up for Fairway so far in your life? We'll start with Bill Stafford first for a minute.
Well, since the time that I accepted the request from a couple other council members and the mayor to run for this position, I've been at every city council meeting, and I've been the only one at city council meetings, with the exception of the last one. There were other people that were there discussing the budget. And I've also been the only person that's been there on the budget meetings, which is the last Wednesday of the month. So my involvement has been immediate as soon as I took this position, so that should I be elected, I know what's going on. Start from ground zero.
Staying in Ward 3, Jim Hafner, your priority of actually showing up for meetings if elected, and then also how have you already kind of shown up for Fairway leading up to this election?
Periodically, I don't think that's a big issue for me, but I have canvassed a lot over the years. I've gotten input from the community about different things. What was I going to say? My concern is about getting the community involvement, and so what I would like to do if I was elected is have maybe little meetings myself with the residents to come to me, or me meet with them. I like face-to-face. I think what the council does is one thing, what information they get is great, but I also think having that face-to-face contact is really important, and I'd like to see that culture change. So.
Okay, so Jim Hafner and Bill Stafford in Ward 3. We'll move to Ward 4 now, and the order within that race falls to Tanya Keys to answer this one first. Again, you've been on the council before, but meeting attendance in your tenure, as well as maybe just the broader question of how you've kind of shown up for Fairway in your life and career.
Thank you. I'm in my third term as representing Ward 4. I've attended all city council meetings, at a minimum, finance and administration, parks and recreation. I've been for a time on Public Works Committee and the Police Committee, and have attended those meetings. And during the budget months, typically attend more than just committees I'm on, so that our finance meetings can go more quickly if I understand all the matters. In addition to that, I attend other events we have at the pool, bike safety, when we have the trail of trick-or-treats. I volunteered every year when it used to be in the park, and we had Ward 4 meetings in the park. Since we're so close, it's easy to have Ward 4 meetings there.
Staying in Ward 4, Kyle Corcoran, you're the priority you will place on meeting attendance, showing up if elected, as well as kind of how have you shown up for Fairway so far in your time living in Fairway?
Good question. So in regards to the meeting attendance, I think it's critical. If elected, I mean, that's your job, right? You need to be there on the city council meetings. You need to be there for the committees you're assigned. So as far as that, if I elected, I'm going to make it my priority to be there, because again, that's my job. And as I've been there for Fairway, so a lot of what I'm doing the last couple of months is just trying to get out and talk to people and try to write down what they're concerned about, to try to formulate some type of response. I went to, I think, April city council meeting, I brought up the housing issue about the tear downs and tried to bring it to the city council attention. So like, I'm going to continue to do that, keep elected, just canvas. I did a community meeting back last Saturday over at the park, and we had pretty good success. But I'm going to do another one on October 5th, so everybody please come, and we're going to just talk about some issues, answer some more questions. And that, I mean, I really want to be there for you. This isn't about me. This is about you guys making sure that you are heard and you have people that are accountable to you.
So choices in Ward 4, Kyle Corcoran, Tanya Keys. And now we'll go back for the final word of this forum, Dan Bailey back into Ward 2. The idea of showing up, prioritizing meeting attendance if reelected in your case, as well as just maybe defining how you've shown up for Fairway over the course of your life and career in Fairway.
So the city of Fairway is not large enough to where attendance can be optional. You just miss too much if you miss, a meeting or two meetings in a row. The city council really isn't that time intensive of a job. I mean, it's multiple meetings a month. I mean, it's probably 10 hours when it's all said and done. Now, I wouldn't want to be the mayor. That's a full-time job. But this is what I can do right now to give back to the community. Like I said, my wife's in the audience. She's in charge. She's the chair of the planning commission there. And, we've got 2 kids, and we switch off and we make it work. And that's what we can do right now.
Well, thank you to the candidates for their participation in tonight's forum. Give them a round of applause for coming out tonight, starting us off. We're going to do a quick change out. We're going to have Westwood City Council come up next at 7 o'clock. We'll have to change out the nameplates, start a new feed. So if you're here for Westwood, just kind of hang out. You can maybe move forward. There's more seats. No one wants to sit at the front of the class, but there's more seats at the front here. So give you a chance to kind of transition. Thank you to the Fairway candidates. Good luck in your elections. And we'll be right back in just about 8 or 9 minutes.